Good afternoon. We are good for and go began good leader. But leader is Elena Pri and I. And our members are Egan, Alexander, Xin, Jay, Jasper, Greg, Pang, and Green. Gender equality is one of Gender equality is one of the 17 sustainable development goals SDGs established by the United Nations to promote sustainable development of worldwide. SDG 5 aims to eliminate all forms of discrimination and violence against women and girls, ensuring equal rights, opportunities, and participation in all spheres of society. For significant progress has been made in many countries. Gender equality remains a persistent problem in numerous sectors, including the entertainment industry globally. The entertainment industry has traditionally been characterized by high competitiveness, with powerful relationships among artists, producers, medical agents, and other influencer figures. This imbalance can contribute to workplace inequality, abuse, power misuse, gender discrimination, and the perpetual of stereotypes. Begin face significant obstacles in reporting unethical conduct, such as retaliation, damage to their professional reputation, or the loss of future job opportunities. These challenges affect not only the individual but also the workplace and gender equality. This study examines sexuality in the entertainment industry through such case studies that represent various forms of discrimination and injustice, abuse of power, missed opportunities, employment, gender stereotype, and discrimination based on the real world example from Asia and United States. The study analyzes the socioeconomic, political, institutional, and subcultural factors can contribute to this problem. It examines the impact of this issue on society, proposes the practical solution, and evaluates the cases from the perspective of human rights, ethics, and philosophy of technology. Ultimately, this study demonstrates how to promote respect, responsibility, and equal opportunities in the entertainment industry, contributing to SDG 5 and creating safer and more inclusive employment opportunities for all professional backgrounds. Now I will talk about the current issue of the gender inequality in the entertainment industry. One major problem is the abuse of power and workplace harassment. These issues are still common in many parts of the entertainment industry. People in positions of power, such as producers, directors, or managers, may misuse their authority to exploit actors, actresses, singers, or other workers. Another reason why it is such a serious issue is that many victims are afraid to speak up. They may fear losing their jobs, damaging their careers, or facing retaliation from powerful people in the industry. As a result, many cases remain unreported, allowing these problems to continue. Next, let's look at who is affected by gender equality in the entertainment industry. This issue affects actors, actresses, singers, media workers, and especially young newcomers who are just entering the industry. Newcomers often have less experience and fewer resources to protect themselves, making them more vulnerable to unfair treatment or abuse. A report also examines real-life case studies from Asia and Hollywood. This example shows that abuse power is not just an isolated incident, but also a structural issue that exists in different countries and entertainment industry. Therefore, raising awareness, improving workplace policies, and encouraging victims to report misconduct are important steps toward creating a safer and more equal entertainment industry. Thank you, and the slide will be back to Kuei.
Let's look at the 5 key statistics. So the first one is we got the 22.8% of workers worldwide have experienced workplace violence or harassment at least once during their working life. This means that more than 1 in 5 workers have faced some form of harassment at work. The second one is got 31.8% of women have experienced workplace harassment or violence. This shows that women are more likely to become victims of workplace harassment. The third one is we got the 12.5% of men have also experienced workplace harassment. Although the percentage lower than for women, it shows that workplace harassment can affect anyone regardless of gender. So fourth, about 54% of victims reported the harassment they experienced. This indicates that many people are willing to speak up and seek help. Finally, around 46% of victims did not report the harassment because they fear the retaliation, feel ashamed, or believe that nothing would change. This highlights the importance of creating a safe and supportive workplace where employees feel comfortable reporting harassment. So that's all for my part. I'll pass it to my next team member. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Juman. So for our first case, we are looking at the Chinese film industry scandals, a set of real incidents from Taiwan, Hong Kong, and China that show how power and gender inequalities play out in the entertainment industry. So these cases involve different people and years, but they all share the same patterns, like the powerful figures using their status to exploit or silence others, from harassment and casting abuse to victims who stay silent out of fears, and some who bravely spoke out. So the main issues across all 6 cases, the biggest one is power imbalance. So the seniors and executive control who gets higher, so the victims feels like they have no choice but to stay quiet and scared of revenge. So this lead to delayed reporting and normalizations. So most victims only spoke out once they felt safe or secure in their careers. There's also institutional silence. The industry lack proper system to handle complaints. And finally, the career risks for speaking out. Even when victims came forward, many face backlash instead of support. And next, let's talk about the impacts. Next slide, please. So the first, the victims blaming. So instead of holding the abusers accountable, people often criticize the victims instead. We also have normalization abuse and culture of silence impact on society. There's also profit over safety. So the companies protect their stars' image and incomes rather than protecting victims. So this creates unequal justice. Abusers usually have more money and power to fight back. And finally, the double edge of social media. It gives victims a platform to speak up, but also exposes them to cyberbullying. So to sum up, these cases all come down to unequal power and economic dependence. So the victims stay silent because they speaking out means risky their careers, and the industry lack proper system to protect them. Visual harassment in entertainment is not just about individuals' bad behavior, it's systematic issues. And that's why it connects directly to SDG 5, the gender equalities, pushing the artists to work with dignities, safety, and equal rights. Next, I will pass to Kensiu to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ming. So I will present a case 2, which focus on unequal opportunities in the entertainment industry. So in this case, it's about Harvey Weinstein, who was once a very powerful Hollywood producer in 2017. Many women come forward and accuse him for sexual assault, harassment, and abuse. Eventually, more than 80 women in the film industry shared similar allegations. So the main issue was the unequal power relationship between Weinstein and female actor. Because he controlled film roles and important professional connections, so many women were afraid that rejecting or reporting him could cause them to lose the jobs or be excluded from future production. So in this guidance later helps spark the global #MeToo movement. It encouraged survivors around the world to speak up and challenge the culture of silence surrounding workplace harassment. From our group analysis, this case showed that career opportunities were not always decided by talent and merit. Instead, power and gender equality could influence who receive opportunities in Hollywood. Therefore, the case highlights the importance of fair, transparent, and safe working environments for everyone. So next, I will pass it to Jawen.
Hi, thank you, Kenshu. Hi, my name is Jiawen, and I am in charge of this controversy surrounding the Malaysian girl group Dola and their music video Question. The music video was released on 15 November 2025. Although it was intended as a form of creative and artistic expression, it quickly received criticism from members of the Malaysian public. The main issue was the group's outfits in the music video. Some religious groups believed that the clothing was too revealing and did not reflect Malaysia's culture and religious values. As a result, many people debated whether the music video was appropriate for the local audience. Due to the public backlash, Universal Music Malaysia decided to remove the music video from its official platforms. The controversy also sparked wider discussions about artistic freedom, the way women in the entertainment industry are judged, and the expectations society places on public figures. From our group's perspective, this case highlights the challenge of balancing creative expression with respect for our cultural and religious values. artists should have the freedom to express their creativity, but they also need to consider the cultural context of their audience. At the same time, women in the entertainment industry often face greater criticism over their appearance and behavior compared to men. Therefore, we believe that it is important to find a balance between freedom of expression and respect for different beliefs in a diverse society like Malaysia. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jawan. I am Elena. Now I will present our third part, which is about workplace harassment involving Roger Elliott. In 2016, former Fox News anchor Chen Carlson filed a lawsuit accusing Roger of workplace sexual harassment. After she found out, more than 20 current and former women employers also come forward with similar allegations. This shows that workplace harassment was not an isolated incident but a widespread problem within the organization. The main issue in this case was workplace sexual harassment. Roger was accused of demanding sexual favor in exchange of job advancement. Employers who rejected his advances reportedly faced retaliation, such as fewer job opportunities or even losing the job. As a result, many employers felt unsafe and afraid to report the harassment. The impact on society was significant. Roger resignation from Fox News, and the company reached a $20 million settlement with Kaiser. More importantly, this case encouraged more victims to stop up and motivate many organizations to improve their anti-workplace harassment policy and reporting system. Then, our group analysis is our group believes that every employer deserves a safe and respectful workplace. Organizations that provide effective reporting channels, protect victims from retaliation, and enforce clear anti-harassment policies. These actions are essential to adhering SDG 5 gender equality by promoting equal opportunity and a safe working environment for everyone. Now I will pass to Aidan to continue our presentation.
Okay. For our fifth case, it looks at gender discrimination in Hollywood involving actor Jennifer Lawrence. In 2013, Jennifer Lawrence starred in the film American Hustle alongside Christian Bale, Bradley Cooper, and Amy Adams. The following year, in 2014, Sony Pictures suffered a major cyber attack and thousands of internal company emails were leaked to the public. These emails revealed that Lawrence and her female co-star Amy Adams were each paid only 7% of the film's profits, while their co-stars and the director received 9%. What made this even more troubling was that Sony's own executives had privately admitted in writing that the gap was unfair. Yet it had already been written into the contracts and nothing was done to fix it. This revelation had a major impact on society. It sparked global conversations about the gender pay gap in Hollywood, and it added momentum to the push for pay transparency laws. Just a few years before, the #MeToo movement brought even more attention to gender inequality in the entertainment. As a group, we can see this case as proof that discrimination doesn't always look like open hostility. Sometimes it's quietly built into standard industry practices that go unquestioned until they're exposed, built into standard industry practices that even someone as famous and successful as Jennifer Lawrence wasn't protected from unequal treatment, which tells us that this bias is structural, not just individual. This is why we believe enforceable pay transparency policies are essential to support SDG 5, rather than leaving fairness up to negotiation power alone. Moving on, I pass it on to Kinsu.
Thank you, Aiden. So next we will talk about the philosophical analysis. So I will analyze the issues of abuse of power using three philosophical concepts. First, humanist and human rights emphasize that every individual deserves dignity, equality, and respect. When powerful people misuse their authority, they violate this basic right and create an unsafe working environment. Victims should be protected fairly, regardless of their gender, positions, or social status. Second, the philosophy of technology help us understand the role of social media and digital platform. Technology allows victims to share their experience, expose misconduct, and raise public awareness. However, it can also spread misinformation, cyberbullying, and privacy violations. Therefore, technology must be used responsibly and ethically. Finally, from the perspective of ethics, abuse of power is more morally wrong because it violates fairness, respect, and consent. People in positions of authority have a responsibility to protect their instead of exploiting them. Ethical leadership should promote accountability, honesty, and integrity in the workplace. So the next, we will talk about the unequal opportunities. The first, sorry, next slide, please. Okay. So the first concept is the philosophy of human rights. It states that every deserves equality, dignity, and freedoms from discrimination. In the Winston case, powerful production and control exists to film role, so some women were not judged fairly based on the talent and experience. Next slide. Then the second concept is the philosophy of technology. Social media allowed survivors to share their experience and help the #MeToo movement because global. So, however, it can also spread misinformation and online harassment, so it must be used responsibility. So the third concept is ethic. Using power to pressure women for career opportunities is morally wrong because it violates consent, fairness, dignity, and equality. Casting the employment decisions should be based on ability and merit. Overall, these concepts show that career opportunities should not be controlled by gender or unequal power. So next, I will pass it to Jay. Thank you.
I'll Thank you, Adil. Now I'll start with the philosophy of gender stereotypes. I think it's the next slide first. Okay, so let's start with ethics for this one. At the heart of it, this case is really about right versus wrong when it comes to creative expression. Dola wanted to express herself artistically, but that ran up against cultural and religious values that a lot of people in Malaysia hold. So the real question here isn't just was it right or wrong, it's whether artists should have limits when they're expressing themselves. And if so, who gets to decide where those limits are? Next up is humanism. And this one is about individual freedom and uh, human dignity. So it's still the same one. Can you go back last slide? I'm still talking about gender stereotypes. Yeah. So basically, female artists shouldn't be treated differently or judged more harshly just because of their gender. If a male artist did something similar, will it cause the same backlash? Probably not. And that's the double standard humanism pushes back against. Instead of jumping to online hate, we should be encouraging respect and actually trying to understand where people are coming from. And finally, critical thinking. This is really just about not just reacting emotionally or going along with the public opinion. We are actually thinking it through, but
before judging the music video, we should consider what it was actually trying to achieve, what the purpose behind it was. It's about balancing artistic freedom with cultural sensitivity and making decisions based on the facts instead of assumptions people jump to online. So next slide. Next slide, please. Okay. So now I'll analyze the workplace harassment, starting with human rights. This one's pretty direct. Workplace harassment violates an employee's dignity and their right to feel safe at work, full stop. And victims shouldn't ever be put in a position where they have to choose between keeping their jobs and standing up for their basic rights. It's not a fair choice to force anyone into. Next, technology. Though in this case, it's less about social media and more about systems. Sorry, still the same slide. Yeah. More about the system companies put in place, weak reporting systems, confidentiality agreements can actually end up being misused to hide harassment instead of preventing it. So the point here is that these systems, whatever form they take, should exist to protect employees, not to suppress their complaints and sweep things under the rug. And finally, ethics. This one comes down to priorities. Companies should be putting employees' well-being ahead of profits, and that's the ethical baseline. When a company chooses to ignore harassment because addressing it might hurt business, that's not just a bad look, it's genuinely unethical and it damages the integrity of the whole organization in the long run. And next slide. Now, about gender discrimination. Again, ethics at its simplest is about knowing what's right and wrong and treating people with respect. Harassment in the workplace is unethical because it disrespects the person being harassed and creates an environment that both unsafe and unfair for everyone involved, not just the victim. Then there's humanism, which focuses on the dignity, well-being, and rights of every individual. Harassment doesn't just affect individual at the moment, it can actually harm their mental health, chip away at their confidence, and make them feel unsafe just showing up to work every day. That's a real lasting impact, not something that just goes away once the incident is over. And finally, utilitarianism, which is all about creating the greatest good for the greatest number of people. Workplace harassment doesn't just hurt the individual, it lowers morale across the board, reduces productivity, and damages the company's reputation as a whole. Preventing harassment isn't just good for the person being protected, it actually benefits everyone, employees, and organizations alike. And that's all for my section. I'll now pass it on to Justin to present our proposed solutions. Thank you.
Hi. So now let's move into the proposed solution section. Starting with the abuse of power, this is the stigma case. Our first solution is enforceable industry conduct policies. This falls on production companies, broadcaster, and talent agencies to implement. It works because independent investigation and real discipline remove the too famous to touch shield, the exact thing that lets this kind of conduct go unchallenged for years. This supports SDG 5 by ending discrimination in practice, not just appear on paper, regardless of someone's fame or position. Our second solution is responsible media and social coverage, which needs to come from entertainment outlets and social media platforms themselves. This matters because it stops abusive behavior from being brushed off as acting style or humor, which is exactly how this went unaddressed for so long. It supports SGT5 by building public awareness that refuses to normalize harassment. So next one. Moving on to unequal opportunities, the Harvey Weinstein and Me Too case. First, independent casting and complaint channels. This should be driven by filming studio and professional bodies like SAG-AFTRA. It works because it removes single gatekeeper control over roles and protects people from retaliation when they do report something. So this supports SDG 5 by making sure career advancement is based on talent, not power. Second, gender equality and media literacy training, which entertainment companies and educational institutions should provide. This helps staff recognize bias and victim blaming before it becomes systemic across an entire industry. It supports SDG 5 by reducing the stereotypes that limit women's career opportunities in the first place. So next one. Next, yeah, thank you. Next is gender stereotype, the dollar case. Our first solution here is gender equality and media literacy education delivered through schools, universities, and community organizations. This works because it teaches audience to judge artistic expression based on talent, not appearance or clothing. It supports identify by confronting stereotypes and encouraging equal treatment of artists. Second, more women in entertainment leadership. This needs to come from record labels, production house, and talent management. Diverse decision makers reduce one-side judgment of female artists. This support is justified by backing women's full participations and equal opportunities in leadership roles. Next one. Yeah. Now, gender discrimination, the Jennifer Lawrence pay gap case. So first, pay transparency and independent audits, which should come from talent agencies, studios, and bodies like SAG-AFTRA. This works because regular audits catch pay disparity early, before they quietly become just how things are done. It supports SDG 5 by advancing a forcible policy for equal treatment and pay parity. Second, the responsible and sustained media reporting from news outlets and social media platforms. This keeps public pressure alive long enough to actually force institution change rather than fading after one news cycle. It supports SDG 5 by holding companies accountable and reinforcing women's economic participation. So the last one. Next, the last one would be the workplace harassment, the Roger Ailes case. So first, strengthening anti-harassment policy, which fall on entertainment companies to implement. Clear policy prevent harassment and ensure fair investigation. This support SDG 5 by promoting equality and protecting employees. And the second one is establish independent reporting system. This need company working alongside labor authorities, not internal HR alone. It allows victim to report safely without fear of retaliation. This support SDG 5 by ensuring equal protection and real accountability. And the last one, providing workplace education and training, which employers and industry organizations should roll out. This raises awareness and helps prevent harassment before it starts. It supports SDG 5 by helping build a workplace culture that is respectful and inclusive from the ground up. So across all 5 cases, you will notice a pattern in our solution, like stronger policy, independent and safe reporting, education, and accountable media coverage. So different case, but the same underlying fix. Next, Alexander will cover the rest, the conclusion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. In conclusion, we found that issues like sexual harassment and pay discrimination are not isolated incidents of individual bad behavior. Instead, they are systemic institutional failures. Across our case studies, we found that deep power imbalances and high economic stakes enforce a culture of silence, where victims fear professional blacklisting. From uncompensated wage gaps to gendered public double standards, female professionals in the entertainment industry consistently face structural barriers to career survival and advancement. Next slide, please. Thank you. Solving this issue is vital because safe workplaces and equal pay are fundamental human rights, not negotiable benefits. This directly advances the UN Sustainable Development Goal number 5, gender equality, specifically target 5.1 to eliminate discrimination, 5.2 to stop workplace exploitation, and 5.5 to ensure equal leadership representation. Implementing independent reporting and pay transparency restores basic moral ethics to the industry. Next slide. And here is a QR code to all our references, fully detailed in our written report. And lastly, with the infographic, one more slide, next one. To visually bring our research together, here is our project infographic created on Canva. It synthesizes our report into 4 key areas: 5 critical statistics quantifying industry inequality, the 5 real case studies spanning local and global media, 3 philosophical frameworks analyzing these dynamics, and 5 actionable systemic solutions. It's designed as a clear, accessible tool to bridge academic research with public awareness. And that brings us to the end of the presentation, and I would like to thank you for paying attention.